little thing coming out. So, all right. Hey, welcome to Go for CEO. We are a YouTube channel that is catering to the small business owner, zero, so startup to 25 million in revenue. I really believe that this space needs the communication, the ability to work with these types of business owners, these CEOs, these founders, these startups, because a lot of the times we're learning from big gurus, people that have built massive, massive businesses. And it was one of the things that was put on my heart as a small business owner myself that has created a business even up to 3.6 million in revenue with the autogenie.com. I felt like there is no voice for this small business owner, this local person, be it man or woman, whatever race, creed, or color. We want to bring these stories to you. So I have the incredible opportunity to bring on Tone. Now, I didn't ask you before, Tone. Is it Tone Fernandez? Anthony, you go by? Which one do you for the best?
You know what? My nickname is Tone, so everybody calls me Tone. Yeah, but okay. It's my actual name is Anthony. Some people call me Tony, but my nickname is Tone.
Awesome. You probably have the same things as me. I'm Latino, right? John Paul, but those that know me with JP or Juan Pablo.
Yep.
So well, cool. Well, hey, thank you for coming on. Obviously I put Legacy Crusaders as CEOs, but I know that you have Social Media Hub. You have a lot of things going on, man, and I really appreciate you coming on, sharing the story. I'm pretty fluid. I don't have like specific questions that I usually come up with. Certainly want to start off with your story initially, kind of what you are doing right now, but where you come from. And we off camera talked a little bit about your 1-year-old daughter turning 1 year in a couple of days. So exciting, and congrats on that. But tell us a little bit about you, what you're doing in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up on the northwest side of Chicago, during a time where there was rough upbringings, rough, just a lot of gang, a lot of different things. But I was lucky because at an early age, at 18, I ended up getting a job in sales. I got a job at Sprint. And when I started working at Sprint, I fell in love with sales. And it ended up, getting me a job, landing me a job with corporate Verizon Wireless. So I spent, most of my career, 10, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. 10 years with Verizon Wireless, as a manager. Oh, wow. And, as different things inside of Verizon. I always had side projects, always was ambitious, but in 2015, I ended up making a transition from Verizon to State Farm. And I met a mentor who kind of ignited the whole entrepreneurial spirit in me. So I decided to just really focus on building a business online. So I went about it, started learning, started growing. And what ended up happening is I started building my Legacy Crusade business. Did really well in that business for the first 2-3 years. And then I ended up becoming the go-to person, for social media tips. It wasn't a brand yet, but everybody started asking me questions and, hey, how did you, how were you able to get traction out in this state? How were you able to get traction out in California from home? And as I started sharing these tips, I started to just, create kind of like a game plan. So last year I decided, I'm going to launch my social media lead generation business. And over the last few months, I've just been refining it, kind of looking at it and saying, okay, how can I help more home-based business owners, small business owners? How can I help them get leads? That's my whole goal. So I kind of honed it down to, a niche within a niche within a niche, so to speak, where I just want to specifically help people, generate leads using social media. And then that's how Social Lead Hub was created.
Awesome. Hey, so bring it back a little bit, obviously 10 years in that kind of retail, but corporate type space, right?
Yeah.
You cut your teeth. You're in probably your late 20s, right?
Yeah. So I started at age 21 and I left about 28, 29, 30 years old.
Similar thing. I actually, I had it in a business sense, Nextel business at 3 retail stores that we started in the mid 90s.
Oh, wow.
And, it's kind of crazy, right? I'm dating myself a little bit, but so selling pagers and accessories and all these things. And I remember that, it's such a fun environment because you meet so many different people, right? So many different races, so many types of people. But you talked about mentorship. So, within that environment, is that what attracted you to State Farm then? I kind of missed that piece.
Yeah, actually, I'll explain the transition because I was a manager at the Verizon Bucktown location here in Chicago. And they ended up interviewing this gentleman. And in my head, I'm thinking, this gentleman is super sharp, super ambitious. Like, what is he doing? Like, applying for Verizon. Like Verizon is a good job, but he was obviously well ahead of like what everybody knew. So
Mm.
he came on board, cool guy. He was, I call him my one of my Colombian buddies because he's he did high school in Colombia. Yeah, I got to connect you two, man. So actually, it's funny. I always make fun of him for this because one thing I love about Colombians is they speak the best Spanish, like as far as like business wise.
Yeah, yeah.
So in his interview, he goes, "Yes, and I speak proper business Spanish, because a lot of us sometimes don't use the proper lingo." So I always make fun of him for that. But this guy became one of my good friends. Funny guy, just down to earth, and he introduced me to personal development. So he was always reading, and I picked up a book every now and then, and I watched a video. But he really showed me like how you can develop. And I was talking to him one day, and he's like, "Yeah, I have this side business," and he showed me some of his paychecks, and he was making like on the side a part-time job, 60, 70 grand a year. And I'm like, "What are you
Oh.
doing?" And then he told me, he's like, "I'll be honest with you, Tony. The reason I'm here at here at Verizon is because I'm opening up a State Farm Insurance, me and my wife, and she's about to transition out of her her role as an agent at State Farm. And I just need some health coverage, just need to come here, make a few extra bucks, and we can have some more capital." Long story short, me and him stood connected. Me and him did business projects together. But when he made that transition and opened up his State Farm, I knew I wanted to follow him there. I knew I was taking a pay cut. I knew that I'll be working mainly for commission, but I
Mm.
think that experience of getting close to him during a time where he's building a State Farm office was like, I can't take that time back in my life. So what I would learn was more valuable than anything. So I took that leap of faith and I said, you know what, I'm going. And I left Verizon, went to State Farm January 2015. And I learned so much from that experience and that transition.
Wow. Well, and you hit on a point that I think based on some of the things that you were reading, right, and the relationship that you had with this guy, when you saw that vision of being able to work together, you kind of were ahead of the curve, right? And said in the sense that you're following someone that you really cherish and admire, but you're also learning a lot of stuff from them. So that's really interesting. One of the things with Gopher CEO is we're trying to teach the four mindsets of just owning your own even position, right? You were a manager. Sounds like you were really owning that store, right? You ran it like it was your business. When you hired people, you tried to find the right people to be in your team. So take me to now. You go into an understudy kind of a role in the State Farm area. I have a similar background. I was in the agency pool in 2004 ish around there. So we were a lot of things that definitely off camera we'll have a drink on. But so let's fast forward a little bit. You've got 10 years of good retail and management experience. You meet a guy that, man, you really connect with. You start doing some things outside of the mindset that maybe you grew up in the neighborhood, and God bless our parents, maybe they weren't able to teach you all these success principles. Okay. So when do you go, all right, now it's my time to go from understudy, call it an apprentice, to being the man?
Well, it took me about 10, 11 months where, and what cultivated that was I'm working at State Farm and I'm literally doing, 300 to 500 cold calls a day. I'm getting hung up on, but I started figuring out like there's a science to this. You just massively reach out to people and something's going to come through. And what ended up happening was I started doing these calls, and each call was like, okay, what can I say at the beginning to capture their attention from hanging up? What can I do this? What can and so each call was a development for me of how can I psychologically get a result from this, because these are cold calls.
Mhm.
And as time progressed, I started having consistent income, and I got the I got the confidence. It built confidence in me to say, you know what, Tone, this experience was great, but I think I want to move on to kind of doing my own thing, because I was only getting older and I wanted to start before I was 30. And, I wanted to have that time of where, that first 2, 3 years of business, you're struggling, you're getting it off the ground. I need to get that out the way. So when that 10 months came, I crossed that 10 months. I said, you know what? It's time to make that decision. And I told them, hey, and I was actually going to move to Florida because the projects that I was working at, different projects at the time, they were really hot out there. So I was thinking about just packing up and moving to Florida. But I never did that. I ended up staying here, and I said, okay, let me build my business here in Chicago. And that's what made the transition. It was just seeing that I can do it without having a job to pay me. Because when you have a salary, yes, everything's easy. You know that hourly or that salary is coming in. But when everything relies on commission and everything relies on you, it's like, okay, if I can do this, then I know I have the ability to grow my own business. And that was the transitional period right there that just built that confidence for me.
Wow. And you went really from having a branch, salary manager wise to zero.
Yep.
Um, you then created some formulas, 3 to 500 contacts a day. I mean, that's brutal sometimes, right? Uh, Learning that side of things and really going through it. There is a sick, twisted piece of me that I love that cold call side because
Yeah.
you get to like meet someone new and people don't realize like there's such a exhilarating feeling to call someone, connect with them, and then all of a sudden be on the phone for 5-10 minutes with someone sometimes, and you're like, wow, did I just actually call someone I didn't know from Adam? Talked about 2 or 3 different things and connected with them. Wow, that's pretty awesome, man. So tell me, you had a few different projects. That looks like you've always been kind of fixating on like, hey, all right, maybe this is going to work. You've got this main thing going on. You got some other things. So you like to commingle some of the activities that you're doing. So what led to now? I've seen you on social. We've kind of been following each other on LinkedIn. We've got some mutual friends with Jay and Maestro and some other people. Um, and obviously, I think I don't know exactly. So like, what is your main play right now, and what do you make? How are you focusing in now to kind of maybe break through the next limits? Because you've obviously gotten to a level where you're self-sustaining, but what is the next level for you?
So for me, I mean, I have two businesses: the Legacy Crusade, which is financial group. The next level for me is we have agents nationwide. My girlfriend and I, who we have a good steady income off of. But the next limit from there is multiplying that. When it came to that business, I think one of the good and the good is you do make override, but the bad is I got comfortable. It's called the great seduction when you start making big money and in a short period of time. And I'm not saying I'm wealthy, but what I was saying is, hey, you make a $2,000 check and then you kind of lay off. So what we want to do there is build a bigger army, obviously. And then as far as my other business, social media, how I'm bringing them together is as I meet individuals who are ambitious, I just ask them a simple question. Hey, what are you looking to do? And usually they'll tell me, I'm looking to start a business. And if they already have an idea, then I just coach them on social media. And if they don't have an idea, then I can help them out with the financial services side. I say, hey, here's a way to start off so where you can learn the basics. So my goal on the financial side is build it as big as possible and really focus on that. And then on the social media side is I what I do there is I have memberships, so I sell memberships to a platform that provides a lot of training that I provides a lot of insight, provides a lot of coaching. So my goal is to get that as big as possible. So it's just building that distribution. Honestly, I think any business, you want to build as much distribution as possible. And right now, because of the last 3 years, what I saw went well and what I saw didn't. Is like now I'm really realizing I'm waking up to the fact that, yes, business is good when you're doing it on your own, but if it requires 100% of your time, eventually you're going to burn out. So what
Yeah,
I realized is, hey, let me just build leverage, let me build distribution, and let me just make that my main focus going forward.
nice. And so, how much content would you say that you have? How many hours would you say you have on your net?
So I have a partnership with um in my own, I have over, I want to say, a few thousand hours of my own, but I
Wow.
have a pool of content that I borrow from other leaders in home-based business. So if I find, if we find that there's a leader who's doing a specific social media tactic that's killing it, well, he's joining our webinar. We're recording that, and that's a training that we can provide. So we have,
Mm,
6, 7, 8-figure income earners from small business and home-based business owners that we get tips from. The other day I was listening to a girl who's based out of Canada, and she was teaching a Facebook group strategy that she uses, and it was so phenomenal that she was put on video. We recorded it, and then some of our members were able to watch that and get tremendous value. So it's mine over few thousand hours, but then a pool of over 10,000 hours of content that we have available.
So you said a couple neat things, right? To ultimately, there's a lot of us that are entrepreneurial, but maybe in things that are kind of an individual side of a mindset, right? So you could be a doctor that's phenomenal, but if you ever break your hands or get in a bad accident, your income stops. Obviously there's workers' comp and some things that you could probably help yourself with, disability insurance and all those good things, but a lot of people aren't thinking that. So one of the things is to really go for CEO. So in this mindset, it seems like collaboration is a big deal for you.
Yep.
Putting in the right steps, right? So that when people join your membership, you could also be able to give them good content and build on that content. And then also probably ask a collaboration within the actual group itself. Is that true?
Yeah. So when people come on board, they have the ability to collaborate with one another. They have the ability to input their information as far as like what they're doing that's working. So the community that we have is just all about collaboration. And then eventually what we see happens is some of the people who are a part of our community end up becoming trainers themselves, just because they invested the time and energy and money to learn, and then what ended up happening, they implemented it and then they did good, and now they can reteach it. That's the whole formula that we have in our program: is invest, learn, teach. You
Okay.
invest time, money into something, you learn it, and then you can reteach it. And what ends up happening is, we always tell people the how to become an instant authority on social media is you want to reteach stuff that you learn. And it doesn't mean that you're a master guru. It means that, hey, I learned this and I'm going to reshare it with you guys. And what happens is we see people's results in their business go from nobody to they're generating 2 to 3 leads a day just as beginners.
Wow. So let's go into a little bit of the revenue. I always like to talk to, if you notice some of my interviews that I'm posting, um, revenue, right? A lot of times, as a small business owner, the one thing that people think is like, oh, I need to be making millions of dollars. Okay. And you don't have to go specific, but what kind of gross revenues are you doing in the social media space to be able to kind of give someone a perspective? You've got your Legacy Crusade, if you want to share with that as well. What kind of gross revenues are you developing so that now they understand, like, hey, it took 10 years to kind of create this momentum. You meet a guy, you connect with him, you learn for 10 or 11 months. Now you get that wisdom, you got that desire, boom. And now a few years later, what kind of revenue are we doing?
Yeah, so combined, so what I do is my main business as far as my revenue with my significant other, she's anywhere from minimum, like on a bad month, 3 to 10,000 on her end. That's where we get all the clients through. And then on my end, now that I'm restarting my social media lead generation and we just created our membership program, we're looking at 2 to 3,000 a month starting off now. Yeah. So what we're doing now is, but what we're noticing is in the next the system that we created and the funnel, how we created it, it's starting to grow. So for example, I have a $1 trial going on my membership program. And what we're doing is we're seeing that a trial run is bringing in a mass flood of people in. So, they want to test out the lead generation program. So right now, from that trial run, we went from having, 1 or 2, 3 memberships to now we have 10 or 15, 20 that are coming in a month. So
Wow.
once that trial is over, we see who, and obviously not everybody's going to continue with the program, but
Sure.
now we have from 2 to 3 a month who are continuing with the program to, 15, maybe 20 are continuing with it every month. So what we're seeing is that exponential growth factor when you decide to bring people on board. And then, like I told you earlier, as far as the Legacy Crusade, we got stagnant as far as building, and we decided to just become, how do they say this, producers in our industry.
Yeah, yeah,
And what ends up happening is you reach like a $9,000-10,000 check, and then you kind of celebrate the great seduction, like I was mentioning earlier, and
yeah.
then boom, you're down back to 2-3,000. So what we're implementing there is we're streamlining the process of getting agents on board and getting them a result faster. That right there is going to put us, our goal in the next 6 months for that business is to be well over 6 figures in that side of the business.
Nice. So you said kind of nonchalantly there, but sounds like a very powerful person next to you, right? Your significant other. So let's give her a little pub. Tell us a little bit about her, how that's going. I know you got the beautiful daughter I mentioned at the beginning, and we'll go a little bit personal, and then we're going to end up in the next 5-10 minutes kind of just going deeper on some of the significant things that you're doing that are other formulas within business so that people can learn that. So tell us a little bit about her.
Yeah, so we met in business. She was the top trainer. So when it comes to financial services, she's the go-to person.
Mm,
She hit the $1 million round table in our firm when it comes to submitting $1 million of worth of annuities.
mm,
So that that was an extra 30-40 grand in her pocket just by doing over $1 million in annuities. When it comes to her brand online, one of the things we have similar is she built her brand. Like, one thing she has is a presence online where she does a video, she gets a result, like, immediately. And I sometimes get jealous because not everybody has that natural ability, but she
yeah.
has it. She speaks. So in our firm, other agencies, it's funny, use her to go talk to the big clients.
Oh wow.
So yeah, when CTA has like, hey, we're having a meeting, and we have 30-40 guys that want to talk, she's the go-to person.
Mm,
So for her, when it comes to business, man, she's a beast. And my strengths were her weaknesses, and then her strengths are my weaknesses. So I'll be honest with you, because I'm a action oriented, I love marketing. Even though I'm in the financial services, sitting down and filling out the apps and doing all that client stuff, sometimes it'd be boring to me. I'm
I
like,
get it.
so now I can have her do that. And then what I teach her is the marketing stuff, because she also fell for that producer mindset at one point. And I told her, hey, you have an ability to, like, you have people who will do what you say on command. And
Yeah.
now she's realizing that. So her organization, which is ours, is growing like crazy now. But then on the other side, she's an amazing mother of three. She got two older boys from a previous marriage who are, they're baseball. Uh, they love baseball, and they're in every tournament, every team out there. And then we have our baby Leilani, who's about to turn 1. So she's an amazing mother. But yeah, we complement each other in so many different ways.
Wow, wow. Well, and I know that we have a mutual friend in Matt Sapala, right?
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
Sheena. So I'm sure that being around them probably has showcased, a similar type of couple than what you're exactly,
Yeah.
showing.
Yeah,
So you guys,
she was Sheena's right-hand trainer. She still is for everything. She was there from the beginning. When they all the stuff they've done since the beginning with with their company, she's been there the whole time, and she was the first certified trainer of their team.
wow, wow, amazing. Yeah, yeah, no, it's incredible. So tell me, you talked about some of the ways that you're kind of putting in the membership platform, right? And when we talk about revenue, a lot of people start thinking like, hey, how do I scale it faster? What do I do? Is there a break point of how much money I can put into marketing, right? But if you put in $1 and it brings 30 cents back, and if you put in $3 and it brings in $2, then there is no stop, right? There's no actual budget. If you agree with me or not, tell me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong. But so, what would you suggest to someone that says, "Hey, you know what, Tone? I've got $500. I want to start something. Maybe I'm an artist. Maybe I'm a whoever, right? I want to be a CEO of my own life. I want to be able to do a side business, and they have $500 to start with, or maybe even a couple $100 a month to really dedicate to marketing. What would be an approach for them to take to be able to go into that side?
Well, before you do anything, invest in an ad, invest in things like that, because people think that that's their number one step. That's actually not your number one step to do.
Okay.
Your number one step would be, how do I learn to be attractive on social media organically first? So I would invest in courses, I would invest in mentorship of how to show up on social media daily. Because what ends up happening is we see people who go for the ads first, but they don't know anything. So a few things happen. They get screwed over by an ad agency. They spend $500 and get one lead, if that. Or we see people try to run their own ads, and then what ends up happening is they just completely waste their money because they don't know what they're doing. So what I always tell people is, get the basics, learn organically, because organically, like, for example, I don't know if you guys ever heard of something called copy. Copy is the text that you see on an ad, the persuasive writing on there. And if you can do that in an organic post and get a lead, then you know that you're ready to transition to putting ads up. Because what we do before we even get into the ads, and because people think that the ads and spending money on ads is the easy button. Oh, I'll get tons of leads. It's
Yeah.
not. Focus on your organic.
Yeah.
So, and when I say organic, I mean if you can put up a post that gets shares, guess what? Those shares are now on a whole new networks page. Now, and I'll give you an example. One time I put a post up, a video, very it was very purposeful video about retirement, about this, that. A gentleman that I met at a Grant Cardone event ended up sharing my video. His cousin ended up reaching out to me and we became friends. She ended up watching another video of mine and became a client of mine. That was a
Wow.
rollover of 50, 60 grand. And that was an organic lead that I got from content. So the first thing we do is just invest in you, invest in your identity, because when you show up, let's say you do run an ad and it gets a lead. Well, when the person gets on the phone with you and you're not who you portrayed to be, or you don't even come close, they're gonna be like, "Oh wow, yeah, you know what? On second thought."
Yeah.
So invest in you, because that's what's gonna grow, and then or all the other stuff, that stuff, the ads and everything, that stuff will come with it. Kind of like what you're doing now with your YouTube channel. You're growing this organically, which I guarantee you this is gonna get tons of traction on social media. Boom! Now in the future, you can run an ad on this video.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, great feedback, man. I mean, and look, obviously, one of the things with a small business owner is that you're always struggling with all the hats that you have to wear, right? You don't have the type of income to bring on a marketing person, bring on a CFO, right? Bring on a whatever banker, someone to be able to help you with all these different things, sales. So, I love that you said that you're working on the identity first. You're working on how to put yourself out there. And it seems like this membership really brings a lot of value. I'd probably, I guess, make the analogy of a health club membership, right? The health club membership is only as good as you use it, right? And all these memberships are only as good as you use it. So it sounds like, and am I getting it right? Is it Social Media Hub, right?
Social Lead Hub.
Social Lead Hub, sorry. So
Yeah.
Social Lead Hub. So look, guys, I mean, Social Lead Hub, you're talking about a guy that over the last 10, 15 years has refined himself, has polished himself, has brought things to the table, is growing a beautiful family on a personal side. But at a business level, he took the time to learn corporately some things. He saw inside himself a seed of greatness. He attached himself to someone that already had gone to the next level of some things, learned from them, and then 10, 11 months later, started to blossom into his own business. So it's an incredible avenue. So tell us a little bit about, in this ending, let's take about another 3-4 minutes. Tell us a little bit about kind of where, not only that you're going, because you kind of shared that, but where you believe you can bring the most impact if someone says to you, hey, I want to be a part of your network, I want to be a part of your membership, and how can I, maybe on a daily or weekly basis, do something to impact the whole group?
Yeah. So how we impact people is it's in a holistic approach. And when it comes to them personally, I know we have the financial side and we have all this other stuff, but it's with them specifically. The first thing we do is work on their mindset, going into the deep abyss of their mind and figuring out why are you not getting results. I've been there myself. I've had situations where there was mental blocks. So the first thing we do is eliminate those mental blocks, because a lot of us have limiting beliefs that have been there since childhood. So we go through those sessions where basically we teach you how to overcome those limiting beliefs, because I can teach you all the social media strategies, but if you can't get past the limiting belief, you're going to have negative self-talk. Man, you know what? That can't be me on stage. That can't be me generating $20,000 a month, 30,000 a month. And what happens is all the information I give you is not going to do anything. So we basically go with that. The second thing is DMO. I always talk about this. This is the number one thing, is we teach people how to have a daily method of operation, just because when you're transitioning from a job to business, your job tells you hour by hour what to do, and you almost don't have to think about it. You're just like, oh, you want me to do this? Oh, you want me to do that? But when you're in business, there's so many things that can distract you, especially if you're working from home or small business. You got Facebook here, you got this there. So the number one thing for successful people, as we teach you, is we're almost like there every day, coaching them side by side. How was your day yesterday? Okay, how did your audience grow? And what we do is we work with them in 3 phases. The first one is, building an audience. Once you build an audience, that we can numerically see how big your audience is growing. And the reason why we do that is there's 2 ways. The content you put out there is attracting the right audience. And then number 2 is, you're out there adding people in your target market. So we teach people how to build. For example, this video is going to be on YouTube. If I were coaching you, I would say, hey, let's look at the subscribers from the point where you made that decision to say, yes, I'm going to start growing my YouTube channel, to now, okay, let's incrementally grow that. The second one is engage. Engaging with your audience could mean going on Facebook groups. It could be posting content. It can be, commenting on people's posts. How to properly show up and engage on social media. And when it comes to the content, we teach you how to post stuff that creates curiosity, that adds value, that's lifestyle, and that gets people interested in what you have to offer, instead of pitch all day. And then we teach you how to sell. What is your mechanism of selling? Is it jumping on a phone call? Is it face to face? Do you have maybe a product, like a physical product that you have people buy online and ships to them, or do you get on a Zoom? And honestly, I'll be transparent with you right now, because this is something that I learned in the last several months. One of my biggest weaknesses, I knew how to build an audience. I knew how to I know how to engage, and I was continuously doing that. But my sell, and I don't mean the sales language and closing, it was my mechanism. I was hoping that people would click on these links and sign up. But over the last few months, the reason why we're seeing traction is I said, let's book an appointment. Let's get you on a Zoom. And what happens is my calendar went from maybe 2 or 3 appointments with people about social media lead gen to about, 5 to 10 a week now. And now that's going from 10 to 15. And it was these calls here. So all we do is get the mindset, get the DMO, and we teach them build, engage, sell. And then we revamp that process with them to get them to where they're going. And then if they're in the group and they want to contribute, we have a process where they can become a trainer, they can become a leader. As long as they're growing and we see the results, they have the opportunity to share within our private Facebook group, or jump, sometimes we even have random people host a call. Hey, we're hosting our wake up call, tomorrow morning. Are you ready? Absolutely.
Nice, man. And what I caught on that, and things are, gentlemen and ladies, things are caught, not taught. Call to action, man. I love what Tone just said there. Call to action, BES, right? And then DMO. Sometimes we use all these acronyms, but it really is a great way to kind of get in your mind. All right, hey, I got a DMO this one. I got a BES this one. I got a call to action, right? So awesome, man. Hey, thank you so much, obviously, for taking the time. The Go for CEO channel. I want to have you on again, because I think sometimes 30, 45 minutes. I want to have what I'd love to do is and what I'm doing with some of the ones that I've already done interviews is 6 months to a year later. I want to see where they're at then. Yeah. I think one of the things that we're going to do at the Go for CEO brand is really kind of show that story, right? So
Yeah.
startup. I did an interview with Desmond Clark, who's a former Chicago Bear tight end, and he's in the insurance business as well. It's called Insurance People, but it's funny, to see his journey and the beginning parts that we did. We keep these at 30, 45 minutes, and then I want to have you on 3 to 6 months later and find out where you're at again. So hopefully it creates a culture of, wow, following someone's journey. Because I think it's a little bit harder for us to relate to at the common man level, common woman level. When we see someone that's already there, Grant Cardone's and Gary Vee's and all that stuff, they bring hot content.
Yep.
But to see a Tone Fernandez in Chicago, 1-year-old, and 6 months, 2 years, 3 years later, to now see them at $300,000 or $400,000, and we're speaking that into existence.
Woo,
now.
Let's go.
That is going to be powerful. So thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you too, man. I appreciate you having me.
Definitely. And I will get this edited, get it going, and then get it out to everybody as well. So thank you.
All right, brother. You have a good one.
All right, Tone. Take care.
Bye-bye.